Hello, ladies. Welcome to this week's episode of Hourly to Exit. I have a very special guest for you today who I'm super excited about, Heidi Araya. Hello, Heidi.
Thank you. Yes, I'm so excited to be here as well. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, well, we can't get enough of AI. And so we have a wonderful AI expert to talk to us today. We're going to find out more about kind of the latest and greatest with AI. But before we do that, I really want you to get to know Heidi, how she got here. So, Heidi, before we get started, can you tell us about yourself, your business, and your journey?
Sure. So, my journey, I actually spent the past 25 years helping companies become more effective, efficient, and productive at work. I just saw opportunities from the very beginning that no one else did. So, somehow made a career of this in my various roles and reinventions along the way. But I saw that companies would execute these process improvements without considering people. So then I built a brand around inviting people into the process improvements. And that took me deep into software companies, agile ways of working, of course, and finally leading transformations inside enterprises. But honestly, a couple of things happened. The system inside most companies prevents actual change from happening, number one. And secondly, I saw about 3 to 4 years ago that the job I had of leading large change initiatives inside organizations was going to come to an end soon. So I knew I had to prepare myself for a pivot, and I just didn't know how much pivoting I would have to do in the course of a year. So, long story short, I dived deep into AI, took a data science program at MIT, started upskilling and building AI assistants, and now I'm building an AI agency with a people first focus.
Wow, that is amazing. Yeah, I mean, I will say, I mean, we're going to find out like all the things that happened since MIT. I didn't know that about you, Heidi. And so a year ago, I mean, I guess it's a year and a half now.
Yeah.
I didn't even know like AI is formed to me as like Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or whatever. It was like out there, there's no way, not touching it. That's somebody else. It's not me. And now here we are. And it's kind of all I talk about these days. So for you, I mean, so much has changed since you decided to like kind of dig into the AI. How has that process been for you?
Yeah, first of all, it's been very interesting. I'm not where I thought I would be. I don't think I could have predicted where I am now, but yet I feel like this is kind of what I was born to be doing. So a year ago and year and a half ago, I just started experimenting with AI. I was a consultant inside a technical consulting firm, helping enterprises with their transformations and technical like app modernization. And I saw how it could help me in my work, come up with workshop agendas. And I thought, well, okay, this is probably the worst AI we will see. That's what they started saying. Hey, this is the worst AI you will ever see. And so I began experimenting more and more. I found how to summarize web pages, podcasts, and all that because I love to learn. And I thought, this is where I have to dig in more. So I was laid off twice in 2023, but I was already prepared for what I was going to do next. So I hopped right into the data science program at MIT. Again, at the time, I thought, I'm just going to learn as much as I can because I don't know what's out there, but I know I need to know this thing. And I remember having a conversation with the program manager at MIT when you had to have a call so that they would accept you in the program and talk about why you were doing this. And she says, but Heidi, this is so different than anything you have ever done. The business statistics, the Python, the data science, and all this data wrangling. And so I remembered my words back to her were, if not now, then when? Like, this is the time. And so I spent a lot of hours learning that, discovered by the end that I didn't want to be a data scientist, but that was okay. At the time, my goal was to just simply know enough about data science, machine learning, AI to lead an initiative or something inside a company like an AI initiative or team. Then I started to build AI assistants and I got very excited about the possibilities there, especially because my first customers were content creators and authors who had a lot of work out there that they wanted to share their knowledge with the world. And so I thought, well, this is kind of my mission, is sharing knowledge and helping connect people with information. So it just kind of all ballooned from there, I guess.
That's fantastic. And so now you have an AI agency. Did you coin that term or is
So
that?
I didn't coin that term, but it is a term that's kind of new that's out there
Right.
that people are using. So yeah,
Mhm.
in the past year, I had to move from agile ways of working to this AI, from a non-technical role
Mhm.
to providing technical solutions, from helping large companies to serving solopreneurs, small businesses, and from dealing with technical customers who were typically engineers to serving a lot of non-technical
Right.
customers. And lastly, The last and hardest, maybe I think, was from employee to business owner, solopreneur.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I am one of her challenge clients. Thank you very much. They're wonderful. So, we're going to talk about AI assistants. And by the way, when we say assistants, it's like the ANTS, like the noun. And
Correct.
so, or plural noun, basically the custom chatbot. Is that basically what we're talking about? Right. And
Yeah.
so, first, tell us about, because I believe it wasn't that long ago that I was asking someone about adding a custom chat box to my website. And they're like, oh, it's super complicated. And maybe they just didn't know what they're talking about. Or has it just progressed that much in the last 6 to 9 months? It's like, what is the history there?
Yes, it
Mhm.
has progressed very
Okay.
rapidly in the
Okay.
last 6 to 9 months. When I first
Mhm.
started building chatbots, there were very few platforms available for them. They were expensive. They couldn't house a lot of information. And a lot of them, like for the one that we built for you and others, you can kind of crawl the website effectively and
Mhm.
quickly. And those kind of things didn't exist 9 months ago. So, yes, great progress has been made, not only with the capabilities, but also the storage of information. So, it used to be very expensive to do that. And they were saying it would be hundreds of dollars per month. So, the cost has come down a lot from that as well. Those are some of the factors.
Okay. So, what is the difference between the AI assistants and like when I go on ChatGPT, if I premium, I can make a custom chatbot for whatever they call it. Like,
Yeah,
what's
that
the
is a
difference?
great, yeah, custom GPT.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you build your custom GPT in ChatGPT, you can actually program that with natural language. I want this and I want that, how it responds, and you can upload some files there. But the limitations are that it's limited to both the file upload, so it can't crawl your site automatically and
Ah,
pull in all the
okay.
data, but also the file uploads are limited. And I think it's 20 files that you can upload. The workaround is to gather all of your information, transform it to a text format first, and then you can upload
Wow.
it. So you'd have to do some massaging there, but you also can't embed that on your website as a chatbot in a pop-up like we have done or in an iframe. And
Mhm.
so they've just meant it to be, if you did do that, say you had some of your content there, it would be a lot less content and it wouldn't deliver the same results as the custom AI assistants that you could embed on your website.
Right. Yeah, I'll say from my personal experience, it is amazing how well it can gather the information on my site and help people answer their questions from a chat. Very different from the customer service thing that you get, when you're trying to get through to your phone company or whatever. I mean, it really is just kind of finding the information that you have, helping people access it. So when people are thinking about using an AI assistant on their site, I mean, the beauty of it is it helps them kind of really make accessible all of the information on their site. But I imagine that there's kind of some minimum requirements for it to make sense.
Yes, and I've had a couple customers that I actually said it doesn't make any sense for them to have a chatbot on their website. And one was a gentleman who had visual solutions. So he would do lighting solutions. And so 90% of his website was just videos of the lighting that he had set up in arenas and big
Mhm,
buildings and
mhm,
all these things. And with that lack of text information on his website, I said, well, the chatbot isn't going to perform for you. You would actually have to have documents where you train the chatbot to answer questions. So if you're willing to invest in building those documents, then we could train it. But if not, then the chatbot can't operate with no information.
mhm.
So that's one customer. The other customer I had, which recently I told him it wasn't worth to get a chatbot on his website, he had a specialty cleaning business and he had 20 pages on his website and the value proposition was clear. People weren't going to get lost
Right.
in what he was trying to offer.
Mhm.
So they could ask a simple question. And I did a test chatbot for him so he could see. And it was, how often should you clean your rugs? Do you do this kind of cleaning? But at the end, I told him, I actually don't think this would be of value to you because when customers come to your website, it's pretty clear what your offering is. They're not going to have to sift through reams and have
Mhm.
complex questions about that. Yeah, I actually told him to focus more on building his brand and his authority in the specialty cleaning space instead of the chatbot.
Yeah, and I would think just good old fashioned FAQs are adequate for some uses. For my site, which was, I guess, finally all these blog posts and things that I've been doing finally paid off. And so I have a fair amount of content on there. So it's able to, the blog posts, right? My podcasts are all on there. So the transcripts from that, including some that I was a guest on. And was there something else in there? I can't remember. Is that the
Any YouTube
Yeah,
videos
YouTube videos, yeah.
and your other website.
That's right, and I have multiple
So
websites. Yeah, so it all works together, and so it is truly amazing, I'm loving it. So, it is a completely closed data set, correct? So, it's not going outside of the website when we're doing it, these chatbots. Okay, all right.
correct, yes. And that's one of the reasons why I'm very careful about the solutions and platforms that I offer, because some of them, I was using one back in October, November timeframe that actually was hallucinating, and it was impossible to turn off the internet access to it. And so it would do strange things like give recipes for tomato soup. And it would also
What?
at one time, yeah, it would. So it was a management consultant, and it would give recipes for tomato soup. But people asked it for it would. At one point, someone asked it a question, and it gave a like a link to a different website. So I knew that it wasn't.
Ah, uh-huh.
So yes, all those things have evolved so much over the past 6 to 9 months, and so we have better checks, controls over to ensure that it's not hallucinating, not going outside at what I say, the little walled garden that you're supposed
Right.
to be playing in and answering
Mhm.
from. The other thing that I really wanted to do when I was working on your solution is to have the citations readily available so that when people get an answer to their question, they're able to click and see where did the answer come from, because that gives more certitude and kind of confidence that it's not hallucinating.
Yeah, that is so important. In fact, I was just interacting on LinkedIn today. I had a post about AI, and someone mentioned, yeah, I realize that I never get sources when I use ChatGPT in this instance. And I think people aren't aware that they can get sources, but it's people are just becoming way more aware. Like we need to make sure we know, where is this information coming from? We know that generative AI hallucinates. We know that it steals stuff, we know. And so we need to have that comfort of having sources. And I'm glad to know that on my site, it's great. Yeah, I mean, you get the answer from the bot, but to be able to go to the source is really important as well. And then back to that being a closed data set, it sounds like some of the risks that everyone is afraid of when using kind of the chat GBTs of the world, those are eliminated when we're using our custom chatbots. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Yes, it's not trained on your information and material, so it's all
Mhm.
secure and private on a SOC 2 GDPR compliant ISO 27001 and all those compliant
My goodness.
platforms. So yes, that's another reason for doing a custom AI assistant instead of just going through a ChatGPT one.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. And so, are there any best practices that we need to think about? Like, when does someone know that they're ready for you? Let's put it that way.
Interesting. So perhaps they're a solopreneur expert that has a lot of information out there. And one example would be an author with a lot of books, like my one client who has
Mhm.
28 books. One of them has, I think, about 500 blog posts over 17 years. You have a
Mhm.
lot of content to
Mhm.
share, even courses, right? I have another client who's interested in updating their courseware with a real-time streaming AI avatar. So it would be there's enough information there where the AI assistant could operate in a way that it gets good information. So if there's not a lot of information out there, then I would recommend that person build their brand and create information first so that we could train the chatbot. But if you already have a lot of information out there and you want to share your knowledge or monetize that knowledge in some other way than you're doing today, then an AI assistant could be that thing for you.
Go back to what you mentioned with the course creator, some kind of live streaming. What was that? Say that. Explain this to us.
So it is now possible to have a live streaming avatar where someone would, so say you have a course that you wanted to teach
Mhm.
and you have an AI avatar that could kind of be waiting for a question. So you'd go to a portal and then the person would ask a question either by voice or type it in and then have your avatar reply to that question based on your knowledge base.
Whoa, that is so cool. So it's basically teaching. It's like having a teaching assistant, basically. So
Yes,
having
yes. It's new and not a lot of
Mhm.
companies or people are going for that solution right now, but you could imagine how much more engaging it would be
Yeah. Mhm.
to learn something if you had sort of this person there in front of you instead of just engaging in the chat. So That's one of the things that I'm super excited. So I'm exploring for my own self how much it would take to have that
Mhm.
happen for people. And the other thing is I have a client who's interested in updating their old courseware, and they have the transcripts for that, and the content is still good, but yet the videos are probably 10 years old. So
Right.
this person did ask me, and I told him, oh, you could certainly create an AI avatar of yourself, and that would be your own voice and your own persona,
Mhm.
physically. And then we could actually train it on your courseware. So you already have the transcripts. And
Right.
all we would have to do is update it to however you looked currently and make any tweaks to the content. And then your AI avatar would just have your course. So it's a much, I'll say, lower burden course creator who's got some stuff they want to update if you have your old content. So that's another opportunity that's not a real-time streaming avatar,
Right.
but it's still kind of the same where you could have your avatar there.
That is amazing. So as you mentioned that, it reminded me of the way old video games used to be made, where I think they had to kind of produce multiple options and then somehow it would choose the right option based on what you did. Was that AI or is that just
Well, it's something that I actually was wondering if we would get to talk about today, in that it's like a decision tree.
yes. Mhm.
Right? So it's more like, okay, it's kind of falls in machine learning where
Mhm.
you would have a decision tree, or so not really the kind of conversant, more intelligent AI that we have today. But those were annoying because remember, if you call up the phone number and they say, do you want to talk to this or talk to that? You press a number. Then
Right.
if you don't answer exactly what it wants, it gets confused and it won't respond.
Right.
Yeah. So we've advanced a lot beyond that. But yes, those were probably typically decision trees, I would think.
Oh, interesting. And now we have something dynamic and generative, so it can take. That is so interesting. Well, that, I mean, I really look forward to seeing one of those live streaming ones with Avatar is public. Please let us know. I would love to see how that works out. That is so exciting. I think people are going to be extremely excited about that. So, what else? I mean, obviously, that is one of the trends that you're seeing. I mean, things are happening so fast. I know it's probably hard to keep up, but what can we look forward to in the last half of 2024?
What a great question. So, the next thing I think people will really start to dial in on is this idea of AI automation. So, more than just an assistant. So, a simple assistant can, you can chat back and forth with, but it's not really taking any action on its own.
Okay.
So agents, there's something called AI agents that will actually take autonomous actions on their own. So they might go through complex workflows. There's one person on LinkedIn that's kind of advertising his advanced AI agents, that he's created a series of them that operate intelligently on their own. They go out to the internet, they solve coding problems, and they come back. And when he wakes up in the morning, it's created 100,000 lines of code overnight with his series of AI agents and contributed to open source projects. And so that's kind of coming up and also scary to think about.
Yeah.
But the other thing that might be relevant for small businesses and people thinking what's next with AI would be just AI automation. So for content creators, they might have some way that they automate their blog post creation in a way that it generates an image as well. So it could go through the series of gathering information, generating a draft blog post, creating an image, and then have you, of course, add your own voice to it before
Right.
you go out. There are people who automate the whole thing, and I don't
Mhm.
recommend that.
Right.
And the next thing is voice in AI, and that's something I'm also experimenting with. So
Mhm.
this weekend, I set up a phone number where people could call in and schedule time on my calendar. And so it's not ready for prime time yet, but voice AI assistants are going to be big. The AI agents are going to be big. And I
Mhm.
think that the avatars are going to be big. It's still very new, but those are the
Right.
kind of things I see coming.
Yeah. I think I saw it was in some mastermind. I don't know, I think it was one that we share, but someone was mentioning that their bank had offered to have voice authentication so that instead of pins or things like that. But is that a good idea if we have these voice avatars? If someone can take a recording, they can take this podcast recording and create a voice avatar and then use it to get into my bank account?
So actually, that's a risk that no one had thought about when they put the voice prints, because I think that came out maybe 5 or 6 years ago when
Mhm.
I was asked to add that to my
Mhm.
financial services account. And
Right.
so, no, probably that alone isn't going to do it anymore. It was risky, but now they have other more advanced applications to figure out whether it's actually you. So I know they're advancing rapidly. I don't know of any banking or any serious application that's only using voice right now because
Mhm.
of that risk.
Mhm. Yeah, very good. Yeah, well, we know that we're having issues with actors and actresses because of the ability to reproduce their voices very accurately. So, all sorts of fun times for litigators. I'm not that kind of lawyer. So, but someone's going to make a lot of money from this stuff.
Was thinking, Erin, well, I was doing my MBA years and years ago. So it was about 2011. I looked it up. So February of 2011, I'm in my MBA program. We had to take a class on innovation. And there's this thing called the theory of inventive problem solving by this guy, Altshuler, who was a Russian guy analyzing patents. And we actually had to write a paper on what we thought would happen based on his analysis of patents and how people could create new patents and basically the future of things. And so one of the things was removing the human from the loop or combining things. So just as an example, it used to be that heaters and air conditioners were separate, but now we have heat pumps, which effectively can operate both. The other one was, of course, removing human in the loop. So my paper that I wrote back in 2011 was soon we won't need actors at all. And there's going to be an interim state where the actor licenses their likeness to a movie because we all want to see Tom Cruise or whoever. But soon we won't really care because it's going to be good enough and we'll get used to not knowing that actor. But then imagine people who write books that they have this vision and the series can go on for 20 years, like the James Bond series, and they won't get disappointed because all of a sudden Sean Connery is
Yeah.
too old to play.
That's exactly right. We
So
have a whole Dorian Gray issue here, I think, going on. So we'll just stick the actor in some room. We never see him again, so he can age while he stays beautiful on screen. I like that. Well, that was very prescient of you. Sometimes it's really hard to wrap your head around the possibilities, honestly. They're just endless. Okay, so as you know, this is a pretty meta podcast, mostly for female founders of expertise based businesses to help them make sure they're building a business that is scalable and maybe someday saleable. And so you fit into that avatar. So I'm wondering what your plans are for your business. And are you thinking about maybe scaling or selling or what the next chapter would be?
yeah, that's a very interesting question because first of all, I never thought that I would be a solopreneur and end up in this, but I absolutely am thinking about it because I see that there's desire and need, and I have to turn down projects every day because I can't handle them or they're just not in the area of scope of my business. And so I have 3 interns and already someone else helping me on the side. And I'm just wondering at what point will I choose to scale or prepare my business for sale? So I'm already planning on reaching out and thinking early about those things in case it does happen. And of course, you'll be one of the people that I reach out to make sure that I'm doing things correctly along the way.
Yes, never too early to plan. So I like to say that the things that we do to prepare for sale are the same things that we need to do to scale. So it's not like you need to be thinking 10 years down the line, those things that you need to kind of help decouple your income from your time. Those are the things you need to do now too. So very good. All right. So a couple of last questions. So, I believe in creating a more equitable society. And I'm wondering if there's an organization or a person who's doing great work in helping that happen that you'd like to share with the audience.
Yeah, so I recommend the Malala Fund because it really focuses on girls and, of course, education. Girls getting their proper education is so, so important. So I love their focus on girls getting their education because without an education, we really can't begin to compete and know what our potential really is. So I love the Malala Fund.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. And there's very little more important than making sure we have that independence through education. So we will make sure that is in the show notes. And to that end, also, is there an offer? I know you're probably overwhelmed. I think you are going to be even more overwhelmed, but is there an offer that you'd like to share with the audience or what's going on in your business?
Yeah, so actually, I'd love to hear from solopreneurs and small businesses who are really struggling to scale, maybe struggling with too many phone calls, unable to answer them, or perhaps like you, they got to sit in a meeting that could have been just answered by the AI assistant on their website. So definitely we're looking to help those folks scale and grow. And also there are some folks reaching out now who are ready for that next step into AI automation. So automating some of their processes. So that's my offer to just reach out and have a chat if you think that might be you. But also I have heard a lot of stories that people implement automation or AI assistance without talking to the people who are impacted. And so one of the things that I take very, very seriously is including the people who are impacted in the conversation when we're thinking about automation. So I lead these AI exploration workshops that are also very people focused, and we talk about opportunities inside our company for automation. So another conversation is if people are just uncertain where to start with AI in their company, we can have an AI exploration workshop with your workforce.
Yeah, we don't want to leave people behind, right? That is the danger, isn't it? To leave people behind in all of this conversation about artificial intelligence. So where can people find you?
So you can go to my website at brightlogicgroup.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Heidi Araya. And yeah, those are the places that you can find me hanging out.
Awesome. We'll have all of that in the show notes as well. Heidi, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I look forward to meeting you again and watching the podcast when it goes live.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Erin. Have a lovely day.